Hi, I'm Adam,
This is Kevin.
and we are Tech Guys Who Invest. This is the place for business people and investors to learn all about investing. We offer a fresh perspective on what it's like to have a day job while investing. And we share lessons learned on our investing journey. Our vision is to educate and entertain you while adding tons of value to your daily commute. Welcome to our show.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Tech Guys Who Invest podcast. This is your co-host, Kevin Galang here. And on this episode, I talk about a particular subject in the note investing space that I have recently learned about. And of course, as I learn anything new, you are going to learn something new as well. That's the foundation of the Tech Guys Who Invest podcast. So I talk about this particular aspect of performing notes. It's called partials, and I don't want to give too much into it. That's what the episode's for. But suffice it to say, it's an additional tool in your toolkit that you can leverage as a note investor or real estate investor in general. If you have any questions about partials or anything that you hear on any of the episodes, feel free to reach out to us directly, techguyswhoinvest@gmail.com. And of course, if you could just take 30 seconds to leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you are listening to the Tech Guys Who Invest podcast on, it would mean the world to us. We really want to increase the exposure, and the 5-star reviews are going to help. If you don't think that we deserve a 5-star review, that's completely okay too. Any feedback is going to help us become better and help provide better content for your daily commute. So one thing that I learned about for notes as of recently, I've attended a couple of different seminars from the same teacher. Specifically around performing notes, he's talking about the sale of partial notes. And the sale of a partial note basically is you're selling a certain portion of the payment you're entitled to another party. So to further explain that, let's say you buy a note with 262 payments left, right? That you're coming in as the bank. It's a performing note. You are entitled, assuming that the borrower pays for the life of the amortization, you would get 262 payments of principal and interest.
Okay.
Instead, you can sell off some of those payments. So I can sell off 160 of those payments for upfront cash. And what's advantageous there is I get some of my money back. The investor who's buying those partials gets monthly cash flow at a rate that is beneficial to them. So if your interest rate is, let's say 10%, and then you buy it at a discount, that performing note, your total yield may be something like 12% over the life of the note. You can then sell a partial, certain portions of that payment to get an investor, let's say 6 or 7%. And that 6 or 7% comes from the amount of money they're paying for the amount of payments over that time. So if I pay, I don't know the math in my head that well yet. Let's just assume round numbers. They pay $50,000 for 160 payments over 8% interest. So just hypothetically, bear with me there.
Okay.
So let's just assume that you would get $50,000 of your initial capital that you deployed. And then once those 160 payments are up, you get to collect cash flow towards the end of that. So the second half, the 102 remaining payments. So when you get your money back from selling that partial note, you can then buy another note and then sell another partial and then just kind of keep going with that. So I learned that recently.
Wow.
That's been cool.
That is cool. That's interesting. You know, the creative aspects of real estate have always fascinated me. I'm super interested in them, but I get lost in them pretty easily. You know, I mean, I'm the kind of learner who really needs to see something happen, be part of it, experience it, and sometimes even more than once. So these kind of creative things I get lost in pretty quickly, but they're very interesting to me. And I know it's one of the beneficial powers of real estate.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, it's always fascinating how people kind of figure out these techniques and then profit from them. I love the creative aspect of it.
And then some people might ask, okay, well, why would I want to buy a partial?
Right.
And that's completely fair. And I totally get that. And for certain investors, they want to get paid on their every month. They want a monthly cash flow if they're paying a certain amount of money instantly. And that's the benefit of buying a performing partial. You are getting that money. Actually, I don't think you can get a partial for a non-performing note. So it's implied that if you're buying a partial, it's a performing note.
Yeah. Interesting.
And typically, depending on how the deal is set up, that partial owner, let's say the borrower goes into default, it depends on how the contract's set up, but typically they would either foreclose, that you would get paid the money back, or you could work with the person who sold you the partial to redeploy the capital, as in finding a person to come into that property and doing owner finance. There's so many more ways that you can do. So it's not to get into the weeds, because I'm still learning, but I just wanted to present that that's the highest level that I know of with partials.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So are you thinking about doing this in some way?
Absolutely. So what I've seen from the notes that I'm analyzing is how I could, in theory, get into a note by selling a partial, owning the note on the back end, while the investor gets a solid yield that they're requesting on the front end. So what I mean by that, let's say that the note cost $40,000, and I have an investor that wants to deploy $50,000. If they pay $45,000 for 8% interest over the next 10 years, then what has happened is there's a $5,000 difference. That could be like a broker's fee. And then the remaining $5,000 would be in the event we had to foreclose. And let's say that there's, out of that note that I just mentioned, there was 200 payments. So let's say they get 100 payments at $45,000, 8% interest. Once those 100 payments are up, I would own the note and the remaining monthly payments on the back end. So it's like I'm owning the note with no money into the deal.
Yeah. So for the first 100 payments, you own it, but he's getting all the cash flow from it.
Correct.
Once he gets all of his payments, you still own it, and you begin collecting and get the cash flow until it's done.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Exactly. And if you can set it up, I can create a finder's fee, if you will, by purchasing the note at a discount. And that's one thing that I'm working on. The second thing actually that I'm working on is an ebook. I'm doing the final edits on that, where I'm trying to target seller carryback notes. And for our listeners that don't know what that means, is it's a owner financed note. So let's say you own your house outright. You've paid it off and you want to sell it to somebody, but either they can't get the traditional financing, or you know them personally and you know they have a good job, they just don't have that cash right now. Instead of the traditional 20% you could say, you know what, pay me 10% and I'll finance the rest. So for $100,000 house, you say, pay me $10,000 and I'll finance the remaining $90,000. And typically when you do that, you are going to have an interest that's higher than the bank, because you now, as a former homeowner, are taking on that risk. You're not getting your money up front, and that risk is paid to you through interest. Now, let's say 6 months to a year, maybe even longer, you're like, you know what? I want upfront money. I'm tired of the monthly cash flow for whatever reason. Maybe you want to pay for college for somebody. You want to go on this dream vacation. You can then sell that note to somebody like me. So I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that. And that's why I wanted to create an ebook to start educating people on that exact process. And plus, I love writing and educating anyway. So it's a fun exercise.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Are you going to offer the ebook on your website?
Yeah, and on Tech Guys Who Invest too. So
awesome.
That would be awesome for people to read if they're interested. Then you can even add partials with that. So let's say that this person has that $90,000 note. They can either sell all of it, and then I can come in and take the total payments, or they can sell me a partial, right? So they could sell half of those payments where they get their upfront cash, and then after I'm out of the picture, they get to collect the remaining payments. So you can create win-wins with performing notes as well.
Yeah, very cool. Oh man, I can't wait until you get one of these so we can talk more about how it's actually going once you get one.
Oh yeah, I can't wait either.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So what else is going on?
That's all I can think of at the moment. Those two things, working on those. And there's going to be a lot of marketing for the seller finance notes. One thing that people do typically is send out letters. So anybody can do this. You can go on to a county website anywhere in the US and search by mortgages that have been originated the last year. and you can find out because that information is publicly recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And then find out their information, like their address, and send them letters. What I'm trying to do instead is use technology, because I'm a tech guy, to my advantage. So what ideally is I've had my VA pull in some data, do some skip tracing or researching on people. First of all, you'd be surprised at how much information the internet holds about you.
I know.
So I'm finding information about these people through just Google searching and various websites to find their email. And I'm not emailing them out of the blue because I know that there are certain laws against that. Instead, what I'm trying to do is get an understanding of who that person is and then being able to do advertisements around that. So it's targeted advertising. So those Facebook posts that you see about ads that you think that are relevant to you, you search up coffee one time and some local coffee shop gives you an ad. Effectively, I'm trying to do something like that. So I'm leveraging the technology, which then makes the whole business so much more scalable. And as you know, you can't really scale direct mail. It's hard and it's expensive and time consuming.
Yeah, that's an excellent use of technology.
And then having the VA helps a lot too, because while she works on something that I don't feel is that I could be doing something else, I think that's huge. And that's where we start to begin to build a team, begin to build a system where it becomes more and more passive.
Yeah, excellent. So for the VA, do you give her a script or instructions? How do you sort of get her going on what you need her to do?
So what I do is I ask her if she prefers video or like a PDF of instructions, and she prefers a PDF, which is fine. I don't have any problems with that. So I'll take screenshots. I'll go through the process of I'll find, let's say there's 100 houses or 100 mortgages, people she needs to do research on. I will do 5 of them, first of all, so that I fully understand the process and can communicate it. And then second of all, she can see exactly how it's done. So each time I do one part of the process, I'll do a screenshot, add my explicit instructions. You need to click here. This is what you need to type in. And then I send that PDF over to her and she does it. And I wake up and now this list is filled with information that I'm looking to grab.
Excellent.
Yeah. So it's that first one, man. That for me, that is the hardest one. That initial hump. Like I feel like I'm right there. And once I get it, I'm obviously going to share it with the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's true. It's the law of the first deal. Once you get that first one, then other things start to come to you.
Exactly.
That's it for this episode of Tech Guys Who Invest. This is Adam.
And this is Kevin. Thank you so much for listening to us. Don't forget to join our Facebook page where we're building a community of investors so that we can share ideas, tips, and other ways to help us get out of the rat race. If you found value in this podcast, it would mean the world to us if you could share it with your network. Lastly, we love feedback. It's how we get better. So if you wouldn't mind spending 30 seconds and leaving us an honest review on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever platform you're using, that would be super sweet. If you want to get on Adam or Kevin's calendar, go to tgwipodcast.com/contact. We want to help you invest safely, wisely, and ultimately get you out of the rat race. Thanks again.